Australia, New Zealand, Sweden, we have arthroplasty registers. I mean, we have a precise information and tracking about the implant and about the patient who has the implant, who received the implant. So you can imagine what we can do with this data if we properly use it. And if we link information of a register that is a passive, it's just a passive amount of data, and we are able to mix an arthroplasty register with prompts and with telehealth. We can think about X-ray analysis done remotely. We can mix artificial intelligence in observation of X-rays. For example, many papers by my colleagues from different universities in Europe already demonstrated that artificial intelligence is able to detect in the X-rays, is able to detect problems, is able to detect an early loosening of an early consumption in an implant. And you can imagine what we can do with a junction of artificial intelligence, telemedicine, because artificial intelligence is the red flag, able to tell me, okay, I need to open a teleconsultation for the patient and understand how the patient is feeling, and this in order to give the patient a good service. Because in my practice, the problem is that the patient is coming to me too late. The patient is coming to the doctor when the problem is really big and when the problem is requiring a new surgery. But with these technologies, probably we are able to detect very early problems and solve them. Something that could seem very simple, but we are able to understand if the patient is giving too much pressure, probably during the rehab. And we can tell him, okay, let's take it easy, slow the rehab. All these are applications of telemedicine also in a surgical field.
Thank you. Thank you, Doctor. So clearly there is a whole breadth of solutions that can be very effective. And we heard Dr. Hala talk about the applications in maternal health. Thank you for talking about the applications in surgery. I wanted to actually go back to Dr. Harold. I don't see him on my screen. Has he talked
Ms.
up?
Shukla, Dr. Harold had to leave. He had kept us informed. We could ask these questions to Vedran, who has come in on Dr. Harold's behalf.
Wonderful. Thank you, Vedran. Thank you so much for joining us and stepping in. Where I was going to go with this question was we are all aligned that this is a very important need. We're all very aligned that disruptions can happen across the board. But Dr. Harold was trying to shed some light on where the disruption would come from. So I'd like to pick that thread up a little more. Which kind of companies would do the innovation? What do startups and innovators need in order to pick up each of these problems, try to build the technology and the business model around it? And what would it take for these solutions then to be adopted by hospitals, by labs, by all other healthcare service settings in order for it to be a financially viable outcome for the innovating company? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, okay. I just have to excuse Harold. Harold has an emergency. He had to go to the hospital. He couldn't attend anymore. So I will try to answer your question. And the answer is it's a pretty high threshold to get into the healthcare in the first place. And on top of that, working with the technologies that has not been even accepted by the healthcare. I've just seen yesterday the investment made into artificial intelligence, and for the last year it was over $10 billion, and it's growing about 30% each year. But the threshold, as I said, for the new companies are quite high. In this field, regulations are a limiting factor. For example, our company is spending more than a half of its entire yearly budget for the regulation and for the regulatory. And when it comes to providing data, there was simply no companies outside except the big ones who are effectively working with their own equipment to provide this kind of technology. So to answer your question, I think a lot of companies is doing that, but they are keeping their own islands of solutions within their own brands and within their own technologies. For the small companies to achieve like ours, it's tough, it's very hard, but also the win, it's very big. Because some of us that will be providing data to other hospitals and to other artificial intelligence would be considered as the main infrastructure for everything that's going to happen in the future. So it's very tough. It's a very specific part of the business, and not a lot of other vendors that are coming from engineering actually knows how tough it is to create something that is regulated. And most of the time, they will promise and overpromise deliverables to the market that cannot be simply registered. The process of creating software is quite tough. The process of validating is quite tough. So the go-to-market time is not that easy.
Thank you. No, I hear you on that. We, as IFC, back a lot of these startups in the digital health space. In fact, in India, we've backed India's largest digital health platform that combines e-pharmacy, teleconsultations, e-diagnostics. We backed that company about 5 years ago. It's been growing well. And we've looked at many other players that solve for patient monitoring, especially in COVID, where patients couldn't be monitored. Some kind of tracker that can be on the patient's bedside or under the mattress to track how the patient's doing. We've seen use of artificial intelligence in differential diagnostics. We've seen use of artificial intelligence in reading pathology, radiology reports, as well as blood smears and pathology. So you're seeing a lot of applications. You're absolutely right, Vedran, that it takes a lot of capital, it takes a lot of staying power and fortitude to go out there, build something, validate it, prove it to everyone that it works, and then drive adoption while all the while knowing that the regulation in some of these new spaces is just unclear because the space itself is evolving. And that's where I really applaud the GCC countries and the remark that was made earlier that they have blueprints of what 2030 would look like for digital health. It's quite remarkable, and actually doing something like that is a key message to all stakeholders that this is the future and we all need to get together to embrace it. We're actually over our time limit, so let me do a quick check with the organizers on if we can take a couple of more minutes or if we should wrap up or if there are any questions from the audience. Roger, do you have anything on that?
I think a couple of minutes would be fine, Ms. Shukla.
Any questions so far, Roger? How are we doing on time?
None received. We are 9 minutes over time, but we haven't received any questions as yet from the audience.
Thank you so much. Since we are 9 minutes over time, I won't delay this any longer. I have thoroughly enjoyed the discussion today, and thank you all for bringing a lot of your insights and the depth and the details in your answers. We all learned from each other today, and looking forward to keep the dialogue going even beyond this point. Thank you so much, everyone, and thank you to the organizers of the BTT Summit.
Thank you, Ruchira.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Bye, bro.
Thank you, Ms. Shukla, for wonderfully moderating the panel, and thank you, dear panelists, Dr. Youssef, Dr. Guatteri, Dr. Chandra, Mr. Althawadi, and Dr. Arkoff, and also Vedran for joining us, last minute on short notice as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Well, with this, we come to an end of our power-packed and a wonderful day, which has turned out to be. I'm sure that we have all learned a lot from what we heard today on the insights, the trends, solutions, predictions, experiences, and for what lies ahead and the future. With this, dear audience, we have reached the end of an insightful and successful day of the Bahrain Telehealth Technology Summit 2022 under the patronage of the National Health Regulatory Authority NHRA Bahrain on delivering high quality digital health with value-based charge accountable care organized by the TREX event team, and the entire team of TREX event is thankful to our esteemed speakers, eminent panelists, our sponsors, Philips, Advanced Care, and OneSource Solutions International. We are also truly grateful to the National Health Regulatory Authority, NHRA Bahrain, for blessing the summit by being the patronage, and a special thanks to the NHRA CEO, Dr. Miriam, for the wonderful support that was offered. We would also like to thank the NHRA representatives, our guest of honor, Mr. Wafiq Ajor and Dr. Amina Malik, our eminent panelists, for joining us today. Last but not the least, we would like to thank our dear delegates for joining us today in huge numbers and making this a success. Without you, this would not have been possible. I hope all of you have thoroughly enjoyed these sessions that we had and conducted for you today. Have a great day ahead. Stay safe and see you in the next edition of the Bahrain Telehealth Summit soon. On behalf of Trex event, we are signing off. Thank you.